Something isn't right about the situation. In fact, something is very wrong with the situation. But we can fix it. Just give me duct tape. Lots and lots of duct tape. Greetings and welcome to Checkpoint Gaming, Gaslands. With all of that taken care of regarding the game in and of itself, it is time for us to discuss our house rules. With these rules, they consist of unofficial rules of the game what we feel are important enough to share and mention here. The point behind these rules are to help maximize the enjoyment factor of the game and to help minimize people from being an asshole and detracting enjoyment for the other players. First has to do with the touch it, use it rule. The initial point behind this rule is to force players to commit to their decision. But during gameplay, there is the possibility that the templates will become piled atop one another, thus requiring people to move them to see all of the possible templates that are available. It is also possible that some templates will be upside down, so people will need to flip them in order to see the icons that are printed on each template. So to correct that, we replace the touch it, use it rule with the pickup rule. Basically speaking, instead of just touching the template, the player will have to pick up that given template in order for them to be committed to using it. That way, the spirit of the rule will be retained while still allowing the players to see any templates that just so happen to be stacked atop one another. Second, no hairpin, hard, or donut turns are allowed when leaving the start gate during a death race. Doing so is a douchey move and will directly affect other players from getting into the game. Third, if you collide with a piece of terrain after resolving the collision window and it is time for said vehicle to move once again, it is not allowed to travel through the piece of terrain. If your movement template is longer than short, then said vehicle is not allowed to go through said piece of terrain. If your vehicle sideswipes the piece of terrain, then there is no issue as you can just continue driving forward. But if you collided with a piece of terrain head-on, then you will need to either reverse or use the turn templates to get out of the situation. Technically speaking, driving through the large pieces of terrain is allowed due to the ignored rule, but we feel like doing so is in violation of the spirit of the rule, if not the strict letter of it. We also don't feel like it would make a lot of sense to have a vehicle ignore an entire building or a huge rock formation. We see the rule as allowing players to continue to play without having to deal with constant collision windows once it is in contact with another vehicle or piece of terrain. Allowing vehicles to teleport through entire pieces of terrain is not intended by the basic rules of the game. The experimental teleporter upgrade is not standard for your vehicle. This is why we decided to add this to our house rules. Fourth, when it comes to that of the pit perk, we have a weight class of the vehicle influence if it can be performed. Although this is a low tier situation, we felt like it was worth bringing up. This is because it would not make a whole lot of sense for a bike being able to use a pit against a big rig or a monster truck. With a heavyweight vehicle, it is able to perform a pit against all vehicle weight classes. With a middleweight vehicle, it is able to perform a pit against middleweight and lightweight vehicles. With a lightweight vehicle, it is only able to perform a pit against fellow lightweight vehicles. Fifth, if you roll skid dice before selecting and placing a movement template, then that roll does not count. Rolling dice before selecting a template can influence how you go about moving upon the board and can be seen as pre-measuring. With all that said, feel free to create your own house rules for your given game. Different play groups have different dynamics, so if you're the one organizing the game, take that into account. In addition to this, different groups will have the possibility of interpreting the rules differently, so if you are joining a group that is different than your own, then take that into account. The point of the game is to have fun, and people won't have fun if players constantly challenge the rules, especially if it comes from a newcomer. And if you are the player who always challenges everything, then there's a good chance that you won't be invited back to play. So with that said, be an adaptive player so that you can adjust to different dynamics found in different groups. The game also doesn't hold your hand. It gives you just enough information on how to play the game, but it will leave it up to you on how to go about resolving any issues of uncertainty. That's why we have the rule of carnage, to allow players to resolve any issues that come up that aren't otherwise stated in the rules, the official FAQ release, any erratas, or any official forum that is connected with the game. There is also no formal governing body or organization that makes and releases any formal decisions regarding the game itself or its accompanying rule set. This leaves the community to govern itself, and even though we may sound authoritative when going over this information, we are not officially sanctioned by either the game's creator or its publisher. We are just doing what we can to help people to get into the game and to better understand the rules. And with any editorialization that we engage in, we do so because we feel like it will help people better play and enjoy the game. With all that taken care of, we can move on to vehicle modification. When it comes to that of the vehicles, all that you will need are already manufactured toy models that are 1/72 scale. But that shouldn't stop you from modifying your vehicle if you so wish. When modifying a vehicle, you can use bits and pieces from other model kits to use on your model car. These model kits can be found in your local hobby shop, game store, or online retail shop. Any place where you can buy a model kit will work as long as they carry a kit for the necessary pieces that you wish to use to modify your vehicle. As far as gameplay is concerned, when any modified piece of your vehicle comes into contact with a piece of terrain or other vehicle, then it counts as triggering a collision window. Since you're altering the vehicle, these alterations count as part of the vehicle and will interact with other pieces of the game normally, as if the vehicle itself came into contact with the other piece. When it comes to modifying your vehicle, there are times where you might need to use a base for your vehicle. If so, use the following information for the approved base sizes in the game. For a bike, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 20mm by 30mm. For most vehicles, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 30mm by 60mm. For a heavyweight vehicle, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 40mm by 80mm. For a bus, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 40mm by 100mm. For the war rig cab, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 50mm by 80mm. For the war rig trailer, you will need to use a base that has the dimensions of 50mm by 150mm. And with that said, this will bookend the main series pertaining to how to go about playing the game of Gaslands. We hope that you found this to be helpful and allowed you to better understand how to go about playing the game. As time progresses and any official updates or feature releases get put out for the community, we will return to these episodes and update them accordingly to better reflect the changes that have been made to the game. With the nature of Checkpoint Gaming, we want to present the most up-to-date version of the game to those who wish to play. But if you wish to play with an older set of rules as presented in the Blue Book or before the release of any of the erratas and FAQs, then feel free to do so. So with that said, we hope you enjoyed our series pertaining to how to go about playing Gaslands Refueled. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes that we upload, then go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. We look forward to seeing you in the next game series, and as always, happy gaming.